What we're doing here is we're almost like translating. We're given a sentence or a phrase, and what we're going to do with that sentence or phrase is we're going to write a variable for that sentence or phrase, and then we're going to write an expression using that variable. So we'll do a few together, and then in the next remote lesson, you'll try some on your own. So here's the phrase we're working with. $8 more than Ryan earned. Well, the first thing we want to think is what number do we not know? What amount do we not know? Okay? And that's going to be our variable. Well, $8 more than Ryan earned. We don't know what Ryan earned. That's going to be the variable. So we're going to let D, this is called a let statement. We're going to write let D is going to be our variable for this one. Let D equal amount Ryan earned. Because this D has to equal a number. So amount Ryan earned, that's going to be a number. I'm not sure what that number is yet. But we're going to use that variable to help us write the expression. Now, after we write the variable, we're going to think about the math words. What kind of math words are in this? So when I see more than, I'm going to underline that. Actually, you know what? I'm going to underline it. Actually, no, I'm going to circle it. More than. That's our math word. More than would indicate addition or adding. So we want to show $8 more than what Ryan earned. So now we're going to write the expression. I'm going to start with my variable D. I like to start with the variable D. That's what Ryan earned. Our expression needs to show $8 more than what Ryan earned. Well, here's what Ryan earned plus 8. That's going to be $8 more. That's the expression. D plus 8. So we're just taking a sentence or a phrase and we're using it to write an expression. This expression means $8 more than what Ryan earned. That's a good one. Let's try a couple more. $10 less than the original price. Well, the first thing is to think what amount do we not know? I'm actually going to put a question mark above that. I don't know the original price. I don't know it at all. That's a number, but it's a number I don't know. So we're going to use a variable to show that number for now. We're going to let, P. Let's use the letter P. Instead of O. I wouldn't use O because it looks too much like a 0. So we're going to let P equal original price because it's the number we don't know. We're going to use a variable because we're not sure what the number is. That variable, that letter, is going to represent or stand for the number we don't know. $10 less than the original price. Well, here's the math word, less than. And when I think less than, I usually think subtraction. So $10 less than the original price. Well, when we write the expression, P is the original price. That's what I'm going to start with. I want to show $10 less than that. So here's the price, and I'm going to take away or subtract $10 from that price. That's $10 less than the price. So now we have an expression that means the same thing as this phrase we started with. And the let statement, again, just shows what does this variable equal? The variable equals the original price. Now, you might be thinking, why doesn't the 10 go first? Well, if you did 10 minus P, that's like starting with $10 and then taking the price away from that. That wouldn't make too much sense. This expression shows, okay, we have the price, then we're going to find what's $10 less than that. What's $10 less than that? So that's why this one's a tricky one. People sometimes get confused about this one because they want to put the 10 first, but the price would actually go first, then you're subtracting the 10. All right, let's check this one out. 4 times the number of gallons. Well, first, what is the amount we don't know? We don't know the number of gallons. I'm going to put a little question mark above that. So we need a variable. I'm going to let, G, sure. G equal number of gallons, because that's what we do not know. All right, let's try to write an expression for this. G is the number of gallons. What's the math word? Well, the math word's times. I'm going to put a dot above times. I would put the X, but I'm going to put the dot just because We're not going to use the x anymore because we have a variable here. We don't want to use the x for multiplication because we're using a variable, and the x looks too much like an x because it is an x. So we don't want to use that for multiplication anymore when we work with variables. So here's the number of gallons, and we want to show 4 times the number of gallons. There's 3 different ways to do this. 4 times the number of gallons, we could do it like that. 4 times g. When you have the variable and the number right next to each other, you want to put the number first, then the variable right after it. That shows multiplication. Or 4 times the number of gallons, 4 dot g. Or you could use parentheses for parentheses g. But what you can't do is this. I'll write it and then we'll cross it out. You cannot do this. We'll do one of these things. You can't do that. We do not want the x in there because it looks too much like an x, like a variable x instead of multiplication. So there's 3 different ways to write multiplication. Any one of those would work. All right, this one's different. Half as many miles as Taylor ran. Half as many miles as Taylor ran. All right, well, what do we not know? We don't know how many miles Taylor ran. So that's going to be like, I'm going to kind of put this in a bracket here. This is what we don't know. That's what we're going to write our variable for. We're going to let, I don't know, m, could be anything. Could be any lowercase letter besides O probably. Or a non-cursive L. We're going to let m equal miles Taylor ran. Now this one's a little tricky because you see this word half. That's actually the math word. Half means we're going to divide by 2. If to find half of something, you take that something and you divide it by 2. So you might expect to see like the fraction 1/2 here, but to find half, you can write it like this. There's a couple different ways. M divided by 2, that would find half of m, half as many miles as Taylor ran. Or you can do m, the number of miles Taylor ran, divided by 2 like a fraction like that. Whoop, probably can't see that. These are 2 different ways. Notice, the m would go first. We want to find half as many miles as Taylor ran. The m would go first. All right, so we're going to just do a couple more of these, and then in the next remote video, you'll practice this skill a little bit more. But I just wanted to show you, these are called one-step. These are like one-step expressions because you're just doing one thing to it, like you're adding 8, or you're subtracting 10, or you're multiplying by 4, or you're dividing by 2. The next couple we're going to look at are called two-step expressions, and you'll see why in a second. So if you go to the next page, we're going to do a couple of these. Let's see how they go. So you'll see why in a second we call them two-step expressions. I'm at the bottom of page 18, by the way. 5 less than 3 times the number of points. Well, we're going to start out the same way. What number do we not know? We don't know the number of points. So we're going to write a let statement to let us know what variable we're going to use. Let, I don't know, W, could be any lowercase letter, probably not O, or lowercase L, equal number of points. Let W equal number of points. This is 5 less than 3 times the number of points. I see 2 math words in here. Times, multiplication. I also see the word less, which is subtraction. Now, 5 less than 3 times the number of points. Now, we're going to kind of do this like order of operations. We're going to do the multiplication first and then the subtraction. So here are the number of points, W. How would we show 3 times the number of points? Well, when we do multiplication, the number usually goes first. So I'm going to do 3. I'm going to use the dot. 3 times W. So that's 3 times the number of points. Well, we want 5 less than that. So now we're going to subtract 5. So what this means is you have 3 times the number of points and then 5 less than that. Now I know if you try to do this one on your own, it would probably wind up looking like 5 minus 3 times W. But when it says 5 less, you want to subtract 5 from the amount. So that's why the minus 5 would go second. So whenever you see like 5 less or 3 less, you're going to have to remember like, oh, I have to subtract at the end and not put that number at the beginning. All right, we'll try one more of these today. We'll wrap this up, and then we'll practice this more in the next remote lesson. $3 more than 4 times the cost of a pretzel. Well, what do we not know? We don't know. Excuse me. Got too excited. We don't know the cost of the pretzel. So I'm going to show you some here. I'm going to use an L. But if you use an L, you don't want to use an L like that because that looks too much like a 1. So whenever you use an L, you want to use a cursive L. Looks like that. Now, I just picked L because I wanted to show you that. You didn't have to use L, but I just wanted to show you what that would look like if you decided to use an L as a variable, which is fine. But you just have to make it cursive so it doesn't look like a 1. All right. This is a 2-step one. How do we know? Well, we got times here, 4 times the cost of a pretzel. And we have $3 more, which is going to be adding. So again, we're going to start with the multiplication. We're going to kind of go in the order of operations here. 3 more than 4 times the cost of a pretzel. Well, here's the pretzel. 4 times more than that. That's 4 times the cost of the pretzel. Plus 3 would be $3 more. All right. So we'll kind of end there today. We did a couple of different things, but again, in the next video, we'll be working more with this skill. If you have any questions or you have anything that you're stuck on here, just send me a message, let me know, and I will get back to you as soon as I can. All right, have a great day. I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.